All right. I know that reading legislative documents is not exciting for most people, but the Algorithmic Accountability Act is back, and I'm excited. When we first met, it was the Algorithmic Accountability Act of 2019. And while it's been ghosting me for years, at least in terms of turning into an actual piece of law, it was reintroduced in September of 2023. The 2023 version managed to grow quite a bit. It went from a breezy, quick read back in 2019 to a big old 50-page document now. Don't worry, I'll give you a super quick version now. And if you do want to read, but not the full thing, I'll link the full thing, but also a summary version in the description down below. Now, keep in mind, the Accountability Act of 2023 is still just a bill. That means it's just something that was submitted to Congress to be considered for potentially turning into a law. Okay, so what does this thing say? It says that companies and technology developers will have to assess the impacts of automated decision-making, even those that are already automated. I just love the way they put in that little add-on about the ones that are already automated. No grandfathering in old previously created and terrible algorithms without assessing them. Nice touch. Another part I love is that this act is about automated decision making, not necessarily algorithms. It focuses on augmented critical decision processes, or ACDPs, with the idea that algorithms and automation could lead to greater harm and impacts when used to make critical decisions that affect people. I know it seems like a minor difference in wording, but it's quite a different thing to just assess the impacts of an algorithm or a system, and a whole nother thing to assess the impact of the whole set of decision processes. All right, what else is in this bill? Well, it says that certain impact assessment documents will need to be submitted to the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, and that the FTC would publish an annual report that summarizes trends and creates a public database where consumers can learn about automated decisions, data sources, high-level metrics, and even some indication of how to challenge those decisions. Well, at least in the times where it's possible and it's applicable. But anyway, at least they're trying. The report will be anonymized, and I'm sure there'll be many things that remain a little too opaque for my taste, but I feel like it's a really nice move towards increased transparency. What I also really like about this thing is that it includes funding to accomplish it. It even gives a specific number of new staff that will be hired, 75, to ensure that the FTC can form a Bureau of Technology, which will be tasked with enforcing this law, supporting the FTC, and creating regulations that provide companies with structured guidelines on how to assess and also how to report their results. I'm definitely excited about this thing. But if I'm being really honest, when I saw it pop up in September, I kind of ignored it. And I made a point not to let myself get my hopes up too high. I mean, after all, not only did I watch the one in 2019 come and go, there was even an Algorithmic Accountability Act of 2022 that ended up rejected because it failed to pass before Congress adjourned. So, what's that saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. So here we are now, time number 3. But the reason I'm gonna let myself get excited this time is because we just got the first ever executive order on artificial intelligence. The Safe, Secure, and Trustworthy Artificial Intelligence Executive Order, it was signed in October of 2023. And that order aims to put in place protections against fraud, invasions of privacy, and violations of civil rights by AI technology. That order has a whole lot of different pieces to it, which I'm not going to get into here. But I think that if it coupled with laws like the Algorithmic Accountability Act, it could reach its hoped for impact. Because the Algorithmic Accountability Act would help ensure that we aren't just holding technology developers accountable for what they hoped to do or meant to do, but instead for the actual decisions that got made as a result. Too often, when we see something bad has come of a result of a new technology or algorithm, like the very examples that led to the 2019 version of this act in the first place. Got a whole other video on that if you want to watch those. Too often, their defense is, we didn't know it would cause harm. But the more accurate truth is likely that those individuals just never took the time to think about or assess the potential for impact and harm. And since there was no incentive to do so or penalties for not doing so, there was no real reason for organizations or developers to spend their limited resources considering how new technologies are developed, designed, and implemented with societal impact in mind. But this act essentially says that even if they didn't mean to do harm, they will still be held accountable for the results. And I appreciate that this law doesn't just focus on the data nor even on the automated nature of the tech. Instead, and more importantly, it focuses on the impact these technologies have on people. Look, I don't think the Algorithmic Accountability Act is perfect, but it could be a great first step forward, and not just for AI governance, but also in how we think about technology policy and its impacts more broadly. So if you're feeling motivated to make the Accountability Act finally become law, I recommend looking up the contact info for your Congress members and dropping them a note to let them know you'd love their support for the bill.